first. You know, back in middle school when they taught us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor or the governor and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws. They just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch. Yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones write how much food stamp money you get on the card. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know it all. So the Congress or the State House, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do, okay y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't ever even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though.
Get up, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Get up, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Your voice, your vote, your voice, your vote. It's your power. Stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Get up, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Our voice, our vote, our voice, our vote. It's our power. It's our power. It's our power. It's our power. It's the social action shuffle. Yes, our social action shuffle. Do our social action shuffle. Join our social action shuffle. Use our power. Use our power. Let's use our power. Use our power. Let me hear you say, use our power. Use our power. Let's use our power. We've got to use our power and vote.
First thing first, you know, back in middle school when they taught us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor or the governor and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws. They just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch. Yeah, they the ones that make the laws.
Wow. Wasn't that an awesome compilation of videos of the Social Action Committee in these social action streets? Hello and welcome to the In These Social Action Streets Civic 101 podcast series, brought to you by the Social Action Committee of the Stone Mountain Lithonia Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where civic education meets community empowerment. The members of SM-LAC and our president, Candace Hull Simon, are grateful you decided to tune in, and we ask that you share, invite, and engage during the time you spent with us. We're so excited you're joining us today as we continue on a journey towards civic empowerment, education, and action. Many people only think about politics every 4 years during the presidential election, but the truth is that most decisions impact your daily life. This podcast series is here to make civics easy to understand. We want you to feel empowered to engage, vote, and hold your leaders accountable. By the end of this podcast series, you'll know how to find credible sources and how to understand the federal, state, and local government. And we'll cover why voting, especially locally, matters. We'll also learn how to research candidates, understand ballot measures, and finally, ways to advocate for yourself and your community beyond Election Day. Facilitating today's discussion is Sora Lafanique Hamler.
Thank you, Soratana. I'm so excited to introduce today's episode. Who are we employing? When we hear go vote or make your voice heard, we don't always hear the deeper truth. Voting isn't just about expressing an opinion, it's about hiring the people who make decisions for us. Every elected official, from president to your city council member, is in office because we, the people, voted them in or didn't vote at all. They are public servants, which means that they work for us. And just like any job, there's a hiring process, a job description, and yes, a way to fire them when they're not doing their jobs. Voting is our interview and ongoing performance review process. By the end of this episode, you'll better understand who we as taxpayers have on our payroll at every level of government, what their responsibilities are, and how we can hold them accountable at the polls. Today, we are thrilled to welcome former Georgia State House of Representatives, the Honorable Donna McLeod. Donna McLeod was born on the island of Jamaica and grew up in Canada. She moved to Georgia in 1998. Donna McLeod is a chemical engineer with over 20 years of experience. Ms. McLeod was a grassroots organizer for Senator Obama's 2008 campaign. In 2012, she was the national director for voter outreach for Black Women for Obama in President Obama's re-election campaign. On November 6, 2018, she was elected state representative for District 105, winning with over 4,000 votes. And she even earned the endorsements of both President Barack Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder. During the 2019-2020 legislative session, former Representative McLeod worked with the Department of Corrections and the Department of Community Services to update their release documents to ensure that ex-felons that have served their time will be informed that their voting rights are restored. In the 2021 to 2022, former Representative McLeod introduced legislation to update the outdated 1987 QBE Quality Basic Education Formula to better fund all Georgia public schools. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the work that Ms. McLeod has accomplished. And can you believe, on top of that, Ms. McLeod is also the mother of a grown daughter, and she's a very, very proud grandmother. Welcome, Donna. Can you please start by telling our listeners why civic education is so important to you?
Thank you, Lafanique. And I want to just say too, also, if you go to your My Voter page, that page has been updated with your commissioner information as well as your school board information, because I advocated for that with the Secretary of State. So yes, civic. Civic is about our rights and our responsibilities, and as the fact that so many people have worked hard and died and shed blood for us to get these rights. I think it's important that we continue to make sure that we make sure those rights remain for the next generation and next generation. And obviously, I'd like to see us improve upon those rights. But it is also a responsibility. And what that means is that you have to participate. If you don't participate, those rights can be gone. And we are seeing it in real time, how important civics is. People used to take it for granted, but we're in real time civic action right now. And people are learning that if you do not participate, you will end up being on the short end of the stick. And as the first three words in the Constitution says, it's we, the people. And if you don't understand that we, the people, are the government, then we will perish. And I urge everyone to ensure that they participate in our civic responsibilities.
Exactly. Thank you for that. So let's start it off at the top. Who are we employing at the federal level?
So we went to the polling locations last November on the 5th, 2024. And at the federal level, we employ all of the legislative branch, except for the senators. They're off year every 6 years, but every single legislator, representative, House representative is elected. And also you elect a president of the United States every 4 years. So that's federally, that's all. So you've got federally, you've got the presidency, you've got your Congress that are every 4 years. And you do have some judges on the ballots as well, when you're looking at every 4 years. So those are the three branches. And actually the ballot is set up so that you see the executive branch, the legislative branch, and then you go down to the judicial branch. And in our state, a lot of times, not necessarily federal, but state-wise, those are done, that election is done by May in our state. But federally, a lot of the federal judges in the federal section is actually appointed, but we do elect the president, who has that ability to put federal judges on the bench. And so it's very critical that we choose a good president that cares about yourself and your community and the people you call family and friends.
Perfect. And what types of policies are decided and shaped at that federal level?
So let's talk about, you're talking about Social Security. Part of the largest dollar amount that we put as funding at the federal level is for our military, for protection, right? So those are things that are done at the federal level. So you got the CDC, our health, regulations on food and air and water. Those are all things that are done at the federal level. And then the state has to basically concur, because the federal government is the last say when it comes to legislation. And once again, I think that people fail to understand that if they don't vote federally, they are going to get the opinions of other people. That's what laws are, opinions of the people that are at the table. And so at the end of the day, when you're talking about how we live and how we coexist together in the United States, those laws federally impact all of us, and money that is we pay in taxes that go to the federal level fund a lot of programs in our state, like reduced lunches, kids with special needs, the Department of Education. Those are all federal dollars, and so it's so important.
Thank you for that. So with this current administration, we are getting almost daily notices that the president has signed a new executive order. What is an executive order? How much weight does it hold? And how are they held accountable for any actions that are perceived to be wrong or unlawful?
So executive orders really do act like laws, right? They act like laws and they are policies, but they are really geared towards the federal agencies, not towards the state. So a president does have a lot of leeway with these agencies federally. And so this is where we're hearing dismantling of different departments, because the president does have that kind of power. The only folks that can really check the president at this point in time would be Congress and the judicial branch, right? That's why we have three separate but equal branches of government in the United States. And that's what makes it unique. I was born in Jamaica and grew up in Canada. Both of those countries are parliamentary style government in which the prime minister feeds into the legislative branch. Not in this country. All three branches are separate. And so when we talk about the federal government and say, give the power to a president, know that you're giving them an awful lot of power. And if one of those branches give their power up to the next one, that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the majority in the House of Representatives federally give their power up to the executive branch. And we're seeing now that the only thing that's kind of stopping the executive branch is the judicial branch. And we pray that the judicial branch really stand up for the Constitution in which they took an oath to uphold. All of us in elected office take an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law.
Yes, and I often hear that federal judgeships are the most consequential outcomes from presidential elections. Why is that?
So they are, most of them are lifetime appointees, and I think it's important. I think one of the reasons was for continuity, that there are people there with experience. These are people that will have, enough judgment based on the law, as well as some degree of compassion. And so it's been a good, it's good tool. The problem is that along with the experience and stuff, sometimes these judges can become outdated and they don't really understand the change that's happening in the country. And at times that can become very difficult for, especially an emerging new population who saying, I want things a little bit different. And the courts don't always move very swiftly. Let me just say that as well, right? It's pretty cumbersome. But the idea is that to keep that continuity and to have people with good judgment based on the law. And the legislative branch is so critical because they make the laws that the judges enforce, right? And that is two separate. There's the federal judges, and then you have the Supreme Court, which is even bigger than all the other judges. And they can basically make a law go away. They can undo and call it unconstitutional, or they can make a law even more permanent. So, and guess who gets to pick those individuals on the Supreme Court? That's the president. And so at the end of the day, that is a very powerful branch. But again, we did put in stop measures in the Constitution with the two other branches. Now it's up to the two other branches to do their job.
They have to do it. So let's move on to the state level. Who's on our payroll there?
Oh, so since I was a part of the state, and this is actually pretty personal to me. So the state, you've got your governors, you got your labor commissioners, you got commissioners, which is like almost like the executive branch, and then you have you got a House, which is 180 members in the Georgia House of Representatives, and you've got a Senate, which is about 57 members in the Senate. And the House is the purse, right? So in the House, we're where the budget starts, but this is where legislation matters, right? So I often make this for clarification so that people can kind of understand how powerful state laws are. Because before 1865 in states like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, it was legal to own a human being as a slave because it was state law. Literally, there was a war and the 13th Amendment to undo it. And it took the federal government to step in to stop this practice. And that's why you want to stop bad laws at the state level. Because if there's a law at the state level that does not have a overarching law at the federal level, that law stands until something major happens or somebody at the federal level says, I'm introducing legislation to overturn that law at the state level. And it is important that people understand how powerful you are with that single vote that you have. Yeah, it might be a single vote, but collectively it's a mighty powerful vote. And we showed that in 2024 when 92% of Black women voted together, not because we're a monolith, we're not, but because we put our humanity, our family, our community, and our faith first. And that's how we were able to vote together as a block at 92%. You can't get 92% of people to do anything together, but we did. And again, at the state level, it's so important to understand how many things are impacted by the state, because the biggest budget in the state is actually education, how we fund education. And so at the end of the day, if people do not realize their power, then you give it up to somebody else. That's your fault. And that is not something you can blame anyone else for, especially if you've been given that awesome responsibility and that awesome ability to vote.
Yes, we did a previous episode in 2024 with Rashad Brown highlighting how the state superintendent for Georgia withheld approval for the College Board's AP African American Studies course. Here's a quick clip from that.
Luckily, we were able to build a large coalition with Democratic lawmakers here in Atlanta and in Georgia, the ACLU, the NAACP, other civil rights organizations, and obviously with various students, parents, and stakeholders across the country, all came together to make sure that we were able to advocate and stand up for students' rights and to advocate that, hey, AP African American Studies should be treated just like every other AP course, right? And just so everybody has a clear understanding, you have Japanese studies, European studies, Asian studies, Latino studies, British lit, world history.
Yes, so many people, they were up in arms, but they don't realize that the Georgia State Superintendent is an elected position. We either directly or passively, by not showing up, put that person in office, and that's a direct consequence. Can you think of any other state level positions that citizens may not realize they're passing over in elections?
So I want to touch on one thing. So the state superintendent is responsible for curriculum. This is what people don't understand. The school board and your local school board is just they have to basically comply with the curriculum that is offered by the state, right? And so when we saw that this eruption on what is it called, divisive concept and DEI, though for some reason African Americans seem to just get under the skin of racist people that just do not want the truth to be told. And that is something that we have to constantly be on guard about and making sure that our kids are learning the history as it is. It already happened. It ain't something that we're making up. It's already happened. But there are some very significant, positions that people have to vote on, like agriculture. This is food. Folks, we eat. Everyone eat. That is something that we all have to do. We want safe food. We want affordable food. And again, this is something that most people don't going down the ballot and voting for. They're just going to the top and then they're leaving. But you got labor commissioner, public service. You've got insurance commissioners, your life insurance, your car insurance, property insurance, all of that. And because when you elect us or elect people, you are electing them to basically be an advocate for you at the table. That's the whole point. They work for you. And the job is to make sure that you protect the people that vote and that they have reasonable prices, a nice, clean environment, and that they can live in this country without being afraid to speak their mind, because our Constitution allows that. But again, we want people in those positions that really care about you, so they make the laws that actually impact you positively rather than negative. And you're paying for this to happen. So why pay for somebody to abuse you? I don't think anybody would pay anyone to be abused. I'm just saying that.
I know I'm not. So when is our next opportunity for hiring our state officials?
So that is, okay, so that's statewide. So let's not forget some of the local elections this year. So there's some mayoral, and I think we're going to touch on that later. But next year, you have the midterm elections. And what midterm means is the midway towards the end of the presidency, right? So every 4 years, we have a presidential election. But every 2 years, there are elections that you can think. And guess what's on the ballot this time around? Governor, agriculture, labor, what's it?
That Georgia State
Insurance Commissioner, Georgia Public. All of them are going to be in. All of your legislators are on the ballot every 2 years. You don't have to wait if you don't like something. Every 2 years, you can say, you're not doing it for me. You got to go. And so let me just remind folks that the midterm is critical. And I want to point out something again. Usually in midterm is when you choose, especially in a census year, which is every 10 years, that legislative body that's in place will determine how the census lines are drawn. So for redistricting, let's not forget that. And it's coming up soon. The last time was 2020. Well, 2030 is the next census year. But again, 2026, you have a gubernatorial race and all your state legislators will be on the ballot. And there will be probably some amendments and there will probably be some other questions and stuff on the ballot. Go down your ballot, read your ballot, and you usually get an opportunity to review your ballot by going to the iwillvote.com page and putting your information, and you can get sample ballots on that site. So when the time comes, I hope that we can do something to make sure that you are aware that it's time to get your sample ballot. But again, it is our responsibility, and 2026 is just around the corner.
I can definitely speak for the Stone Mountain Lithonia Alumni Chapter. We're going to hit those social action streets and make sure everyone knows. But local government is where the rubber meets the road. Who are we employing at the local level?
So Georgia has 159 counties, right? So in each of those counties, guess what they have? Cities, each city. And there's a distinction between living in a city and living in the city limits. So in the city limits, you will have mayoral races, and you've got city council members that will be up for re-election or running for the first time, and they will need your votes. I think I can only speak because I'm in Lawrenceville right now. I think 2022, the city of Lawrenceville has about 32,000 people, and only about 600 people voted in that election. Decided for 32,000 people, roughly 600 people. But you've got at the county and the city level, city council members, mayors. But then you go into the county itself, and you're going to look at your commissioners. Each county calls them sometimes a little bit different, but most of them have commissioners. Some have CEOs. In Gwinnett County, we have a chairperson. But again, those are the people that run your county and your city. And there's 3 branches at each of those levels. The mayor occupies the executive branch, and the council members is your legislative branch. They kind of make the policies and ordinance and stuff like that for the city limit. Same with the county. The commissioners and the chair of the county, they will write policies and ordinance for the county. They also collect quite a bit of money, and they also facilitate anyone that does business in the county. They also determine what kind of parks are in the county. They will also determine if your streets are going to be full of potholes or not. So yeah, that hits you right. Locally means local. That means that you are being impacted right away. So it is important to know who you're voting for. Go out there, see if they're having a town hall, see if they're having a meeting, hear what they're saying, see if that matches what you want. If you're seeing something that's not going right, you need to say something about it, right? And you need to let the people that are going to be in office or are in office know where you stand on something.
Thank you. And you previously touched on it, but I want to bring that back up because there's a lot of smarty pants on Facebook, X, everywhere who say that they're choosing to sit out of the federal elections, and then they'll go, oh, I care about the local elections. That's what really matters. While that is true, what's the data saying about the voter turnout at the local level again?
It's pathetic. Pathetic. It's pathetic. It's you like you said, they're telling you I'm voting local because I'm not interested. President don't impact me. But the numbers are not showing that. Like I said earlier, only about 600 people showed up in 2022 out of 31 or 32,000 people that live in the city limits of Gwinnett County. and of Lawrenceville. So you can't tell me that you're voting in those local elections. The numbers aren't adding up then. And so you're either not telling us the truth, or you're just trying to bypass and, not be asked any more questions. But it's not fair to the people that live around you or in the same area as you. You are not doing your part to make the place a better place. You're not doing your part. You are not being responsible for where you live and the people you serve. Remember, a lot of us do have children. And if you don't have children, you also have an investment. If you have property, you are invested in the community. If you live there, even in an apartment, you want good public service as well. Public safety, policing, all of that is at your local. And so if you are lying to someone because when they ask you about it, you're really just lying to yourself and you're hurting everybody else around you. Because honestly, voting is something we do for each other. I had coined a phrase a long time ago: knowledge is the most powerful thing you give to yourself, but that the vote was the most powerful thing we give to each other. And I want to tell people about the vote, especially as African Americans. The vote is actually not a right. It's actually an ability. The only people with a right to vote in the United States Constitution are white men that own land. Everyone else is an amendment to the Constitution. And we know what, with amendments, they can be undone with 3/3 of Congress voting in that direction. So protect the vote. I hope one day we can make it concrete that it is actually a right and not just an ability.
Thank you. So yes, the math is not mathing. A few votes are deciding who is holding impactful decisions. So be about what you're saying about on Facebook and vote locally and at the state level and federally. So let's talk about one specific office that's coming up in Georgia, the Public Service Commission primary. What does that position do and why is it important?
So it's a primary. So that means that there's probably, I believe this is a partisan race. So when I say partisan, means that there's a Democrat and there's Republicans. And so the primary holds where the folks that are running, or the candidates are running against each other, which is political. They're in persuasion mode. So they're going to try to convince you to vote for them. The primary is where we start to basically say who's going to represent the Democratic Party and who's going to represent the Republican Party in November. So that's why you need to get out there and vote, because once the person is voted in the primary, you can't go complaining about the general anymore, that the person's there. You weren't there. You didn't show up in the primary. Somebody else decided who was going to be in the representative for that party. So the primary for this one is in June, I believe, and I do have I did pull this off the Secretary of State website. So I want to make sure that we get some dates. So June 17th is the election date for the primary. Advanced voting will start on May 27th through June the 13th. And if there's a runoff, it'll be on July 15th. But keep in mind first, let's keep that date of June 17th. That is the actual election day. But you can go to your early voting location, start on May 27th. I am going because I became a citizen of this country and I had to read the Constitution and take a test. So I don't miss an election. Trust and believe. So please make sure you keep those dates. And then, of course, the date for elections this year will be in November 4th, 2025. And again, there will be early voting starting October 14th to October the 31st. Again, there's a registration deadline for that, and that'll be on October 6th. I can send you guys this, so hopefully maybe you can post it someplace, even if it's on your page. But it's important. It's very important that people get out there and vote in the primary, because you want the best candidate from the primary to go in the November election, because you want the best person to be elected to serve you. There's a lot at stake with this public service commissioner. You're talking about your utility bills. electricity, gas. So obviously, most of these companies are for profit, but as anyone who's elected as your representative is supposed to get you the best, right? They're supposed to make sure that you don't have high prices on everything. They negotiate on your behalf. And as the person who is in that role of public commissioner, they've rolled a lot of power over these companies to make sure that they serve you in your best interest. That's the role of government, is to make sure they represent you. And again, you won't get the best representation if you don't vote for the right person who's going to represent you.
So let me get this right, where everybody is cursing out Georgia Power for their rates. They really need to be mad at who they choose to vote or don't show up for in this upcoming election. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Georgia Power, trust me, I know this because Georgia Power comes down to the state legislature and lobbies us.
Wow. That is so interesting.
They speak to us because, of course, they want to make a profit. So this is capitalism, right? Capitalism has its place, right? Capitalism is about, I make a product or a service and I'm going to charge you X amount. So I cover my costs for what I'm going to have to make the product with or the service for. I'm going to cover my costs, but I'm also going to make a profit. Government takes your money in taxation, and it's up to you and I to make sure that we demand that money is used on our behalf. And if we're not in that place or that space, somebody else will fill that space. I promise you that. And they will be asking for your tax dollars to benefit their companies. And that's why we use that power of an election and putting people in those roles to advocate on your behalf. So yes, the elected official is people you can talk to about that.
So make sure you all vote not only in June for the best candidate to represent you and your party, but then come back in November and vote for that person again, or vote for the person who's you feel that best represents your needs. And if you choose not to vote, I better not see a single tweet, a single Facebook post complaining about Georgia Power next year. So today we've learned that the federal, state, and local officials all work for us. Most of those decisions that affect our everyday lives happen at the state and local level, and you have the power to hire and fire your elected officials. Former Rep. McLeod, if you could come up with 2 to 3 action items for our listeners to do following this call, what would they be?
So recently, it's been in the news that the Secretary of State, which is again another elected official, has basically put forward that they will be scrubbing the voter roll of people they say have been inactive voters of almost 500,000 people, half of 1,000,000 people. They are basically going to be removing from that role. I'm asking everyone to go to iwillvote.com. That's iwillvote.com. Check your voter registration status. If you're inactive, contact your local election board and make sure that they tell you what you need to do in order to update that. Most of it only takes for you to vote once, but because there is not a actual, well, actually the public service commissioner race is a great place to figure out if you are in a status of inactive. All you have to do is vote and it will be activated. So I think it's important for people to pay attention to that. iwillvote.com. It's very simple. Put your first initial, last name, date of birth, county you're registered in, and your stuff will come up. If your stuff doesn't come up, it means that you're not registered to vote. So please get registered to vote. If it does come up and you'll look at it, says active or inactive, make sure you check that status. Check regularly. If you can, at least once a month, check regularly to make sure that your status is good. The next thing that I would ask as a point of action, get involved. Being civic and get involved means that you get involved. if you want to work on a campaign, join an organization that is in your community that helps people. That's being civically engaged and involved and taking full responsibility for your place in this beautiful nation that we call the United States, and that we live in the state of Georgia, that we can participate in. So join an organization, get involved with a campaign, learn some more about how you can serve your community, because you don't have to be elected to serve. You just have to have the willingness to do so. And I tell you, the rewards are enormous. I can't explain to people what it means to me to be able to serve. It makes me happy. I'm glad that I can help other folks, but service makes me happy. And then the last thing that I would say to people is to really, I don't know if this is an action item, but it's really a request. Please learn the difference between politics and governance. Politics is the process in which this Constitution asks us to basically go to the people and say, "Hey, this is what I stand for. I'm asking you for your vote to be your voice at the table." That's the political part. It's the persuasion part. But the bigger part is when people get elected, how they use your money on your behalf. That's governance. And I think it's deliberate to try to make this all sound like one thing, like it's all politics. No, politics is one part of the process. And once you get elected, you're in this to serve the people that you're elected to serve and use their money on their behalf. We collect a lot of money from the people we serve, and it's our job that we use that money on their behalf and not for anything else. If it doesn't benefit your constituents, then it's not money well spent. And I've said this about, I actually advocated against private prisons. I don't know if many people know that private prisons are being funded with public dollars at a tune of about $140-something million. And we're not fully funding public schools. So you're really creating that school to prison pipeline. Let me connect that for you all. And just to show you that what we do and who sits at the table matter. It's opinions. It is all opinions. When we sit at a table, the laws is usually based on the opinion of the people sitting at the table. So let your opinion be part of that table, but making sure you pick up a phone and call. Those are kind of things you can do. Call a legislator if there's a bill that you don't like, or even one that you might like. Let them know where you stand on that. If the more active you are, is the more that they will pay attention, because every 2 years they'll be back around to ask you for your vote, or every 4 years.
Exactly.
So be prepared.
Thank you. And I will add a fourth. We often share QR codes. So everyone, be sure when you see us with our QR codes to scan and share that. This helps you quickly access important information, and it also will help us to measure our impact. So in closing, I want to say thank you so much, Ms. McLeod, for sharing your knowledge. This was so powerful. How can the people find you on social media to learn more about the work that you're doing?
So I'm on Facebook, I'm on X, I'm on IG, I'm on Threads, I'm on Blue Sky, all of it at Donna McLeod, the number 4 YOU. That's DONNA MCLEOD, the number 4 YOU. So Donna McLeod for you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to bring back up Soratana to close us out.
Thank you so much, Sora Lafanique, and thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of the Civics 101 podcast series. A huge thank you to our guest, Donna McLeod, and our facilitator, Lafanique, for breaking it down. I just want to take a second of personal privilege to do those action items one more time. So we have check your voter registration status, get involved, know the difference between politics and governance, and scan and share the QR code whenever you see it pop up or out in the community. We hope you're walking away feeling more confident in your power and clearer about who we're employing at every level of government. This isn't just about knowing the names on the ballot. It's about understanding the responsibilities behind those titles and how each of us play a role in holding them accountable. This is just the beginning. Join us next time for our episode, The Power of Your Vote, where we'll unpack how voting shapes our daily lives, especially in our local communities, and why every election matters. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, you have the power, not just to vote, but to demand better, expect more, and make change happen. And to really close us out, please enjoy more videos, compilation of the Social Action Committee with our partners out in the community in the social action streets. Thank you.
You know, back in middle school when they taught us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor or the governor and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws. They just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch. Yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones right how much food stamp money you get on the card. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know it all. So the Congress or the State House, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do. Okay, y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't ever even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though.
Get up, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Get up, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Your voice, your vote, your voice, your vote. It's your power, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Get up, stand up, have a plan, check your status, yes you can. Our voice, our vote, our voice, our vote. It's our power. It's our power. It's our power. It's our power. It's the social action shuffle. Yes, our social action shuffle. Do our social action shuffle. Join our social action shuffle. Use our power. Use our power. Let's use our power. Use our power. Let me hear you say, use our power. Use our power. Let's use our power. We've got to use our power and vote.